Hello everyone, my name is Dylan Alcott and welcome to the Value Creation Series powered by NEC. And I've got to say, today I am joined by an absolute legend of Australian rules football, a legend of sport in general in this country. He was a player, captain, coach, administrator, one of the biggest names to ever get involved in the AFL. And a mate of mine, I would like to say, Mr. Kevin Sheedy, welcome.
Dylan, pleasure to be here, and I hope we have some good fun.
I've got to start by asking, how's your 2020 been? It's been a tough year for a lot of people. How are you doing?
Look, I'm very good. I've written another book to inspire kids, so I thought I'll change a negative year into an inspirational positive year. And I spent probably the best of 9 to 10 months in the garden.
Beautiful.
I love my garden, it's very peaceful, and that's where I do my best writing. Yeah, so I had no problem because really I was in the Army and National Service for 2 years, and that's a lock-up for 2 years. So I don't think 9 months is a problem.
Now, you've added so much value, not only as a captain and a coach, but also to the league of the AFL in general. What is the biggest driver for you to contribute to keep adding value to organisations and teams?
Yeah. Well, I like to actually make a presence about what I've learned about my life and try and involve the game in it and Australia. And of course, like we've been able to achieve with Anzac Day, which is about, Essendon's a people's club, and it's about sort of involving people from the Defence Forces that we care about them and let them know that. Mm-hmm. It's about the added value of telling our native Australian people that we do care about you, and so we create a dream time. And of course, the national, the country festival is a fantastic game. We play against Geelong now. It's only just been there for a couple of years, but it's telling city people to connect with our country people because they are living a different life. Mm-hmm. I like to make sure the kids that my grandkids, when they open up the fridge or the cupboard, that is not exactly where the food comes from. And of course, when we have that game, we have we had a farmer's day outside around the MCG. So last time we had the dogs being trained how to really group the sheep together and put them through the ring. So, and of course we had markets from all over Victoria. Mm-hmm. and I'm hoping to bring in, different areas of Victoria and Tasmania and Australia about what is the value of our farming people that live in the country, because they're great people.
Now, I grew up playing a team sport, wheelchair basketball, and one thing that I struggled with, I wanted to add value and try and transform the culture and things like that, but I was young, I was a bit timid, I didn't really know how to go about it. What advice would you give to an individual, or what's the biggest piece an individual person can bring if they want to add value or transformation to an organisation?
Look, I think you've got to know the subject. Obviously, I know a fair bit about growing up with the footy and sport in general, because that's like after the war years when I was born, there was nothing much else on. We never had television until the Olympics come, 1956. So you had to really go back and find out, when you finally owned a football, of course, and watch the champions play and I played basketball down at Albert Park, and we played cricket all over every little park around Prahran, South Yarra, and into suburbs, Faulkner Park. But to me, it's just finding out what you think you could do better. And I remember distinctly saying to the VFL, AFL, in the 1970s, I think we handball the wrong way. Now, that is like saying, who do you think you are? And it was very challenging because I had to go into the head office who was employing me. And after being there for a year or so, working with kids in schools, I'm a tradesman. After coming out of the Army, I went back in the trade for a couple of years, and then I went into full-time football, and the VFL employed me with Richmond to go around all the schools and do footy clinics, which I had never been taught how to do a clinic, except that the teachers were wonderful and they really performed me to a reasonably good level of teaching, coaching footy. Mm-hmm. And of course, when I showed the AFL, they couldn't believe it, that I think that we're handballing the wrong way, technique-wise. And then you had to go on the TV and actually go and win the championship handball. Mm-hmm. On Channel 7 on Sunday. And it was called World of Sport in those days.
Yeah, was that pre-lose handball?
You lose it.
Lose handball, there you go.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm good at, handballing, mate. Kicking, not my forte.
And I said, look, we really should create a handball we handball like a drop punt kick. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, we like to mark drop kicks and drop punts and stab kicks, but we handball the complete opposite way through the air, and it drops down, doesn't hold the time in the air, and of course that's when you get your injuries. When you're going down to try and pick up a low ball, and some guy like Brereton or Dipper might take you out. Or Greg Williams.
I was going to say, yeah, or Diesel. So you pushed the boundaries there.
Yeah,
I know you won this 1976 Best and Fairest. You liked a bit of needle on the field, a bit of push and shove.
Yeah.
I like pushing the boundaries as well. But how do you decide, where the limit is?
Well, there's always a limit to what is fair. I mean, I needle people because they needle my teammates. We always used to say, don't touch Burke, don't touch Bartlett, and don't touch Royce Hart. You can have anyone else, but if you touch them, then you're going to be hurt.
I like that.
So that was, we actually gave notice.
Yeah.
I actually used to say to the Carlton players, your name is on that ambulance over there. You realise that, don't you? So just to get them on a little bit of edge. But that's a needle.
Now, the game of AFL, I mean, it's changed so much, in the different generations. How important is it for individuals within a club, the players, coaching staff, everyone to embrace that change?
Well, I think all the changes are too bad. Some are not good enough. I don't think that we've got the game right yet, personally. So I challenged that on the weekend with a number of new rules I thought we should look at. I don't believe that the ruckman should wrestle in the ruck. They should be like what they do in the centre bounce, stand head face to face, right, and jump and hit.
I like that too.
And I think that that's what they should do in boundary lines. I don't think that the ball should be thrown in anymore. I think they should bring the ball in 15 metres and face to face and have a hit out. And because most of the time they hit the ball back out of bounds, often. And the first person that wrestles never ever gets paid a free kick because the poor umpire can't work out really sometimes who's grabbed who. So get rid of it like we did in the centre bounce. I think players should hit the ball out. If they hit the ground, I think they should hit the ball out. Otherwise, you get the third and the fourth and the fifth player jumping their back. Somebody will get hurt. I definitely think the AFL's done the right thing on the sling tackle, where the player's head hits the ground and can be very badly hurt. But I think that we could look at the player going for a mark dangerously, following the flight of the ball, and I think we nearly need to stop that because I think we're going to have a death.
Yeah.
Now that's scary, but I think I'd rather try and convince people to get the rule in until we get someone badly hurt. And even in the finals this year, we had 3 or 4 players knocked out.
Yeah, it looked bad too.
Looked bad, and young Ebert over in Adelaide, if you're his parent or any other parents around Australia watching that boy going for a contest the same way the flight of the ball is, I think we nearly got to, make some decisions about this before someone is badly hurt.
Now, one of your best talents is you're an incredible manager of people, obviously being the coach and one of the heads of a footy club. How did you manage the players when there was big transformational change?
Well, the players' lifespan's very short. They basically 18 to 32 maybe, plus injuries. So we need a good medical staff. We could always had the sports psychologist with us, and I had always wonderful coaches. I mean, some of my strengths are to go and find coaches better than me, and the coaches that I had, like Dennis Pagan and Mark Thompson, Mark Harvey, Neil Danaher, Mark Williams. These are my assistant coaches. And of course, so I was blessed with picking some very good people ready to be. Dean Wallace was a great coach, So, so when you look back and the sorts of people I had around me, you had the right people to share the load, to develop people to find their true ability, and give them a chance in life to have a lot of possible fun and success in that decade, sort of. Not many players play 100 games of AFL.
I think it's a team effort, isn't it? A lot of people say about my career, about that I do it all, but it's not me. It's you put good people around you, and I think also, being able to delegate to people to help you.
Crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't like it.
No, and I agree with you. And people think they don't like doing it, and I think that actually affects your success.
Well, I think it does, personally. I mean, we're always looking for good people to bring to wrestling because we wanted to be the people's club.
Mate, people just make us look good. That's what we like.
And that's okay.
We don't do anything.
Well, I mean, a lot of when you're watching movies, I like to find out who the producers and directors are, to find out how they pick and select the star to what the result is in that movie, and who wants to watch that around the world. So I love just looking at how other people set up.
Yeah. Now, something else that's been really successful for your career. You're a creative guy. You're even creative talking about the rules and things like that. Before, how important is having an element of creativity within an organisation to add value to it?
I think it's important, and like I spend a lot of money on my library at home, and one of the most creative people that really that inspired me was a guy called Edward de Bono. He really gave value added to my life through the books I read. My library's probably valued at over $100,000, so it's a serious library. The courses I did in and around the world that I've met people and done courses, the best course I did, I felt, was Disney World, Florida. I'm a big fan of Walt Disney.
Awesome.
Yeah, he has a course over there for creativity and the way to look at different aspects of life. I mean, anybody that can actually, make a success out of Mickey Mouse, which looks nothing like a mouse, is incredible.
Yeah, and then make two of them in Minnie as well.
Yeah, so and last after his death, and go on and on and on. So I think in the end, that creativeness probably was enhanced. The late Ron Evans, who ran the AFL, was chairman here at Essendon, said, look, I think you're ready to go over. I was in my 40s.
Yep.
And I come back and I started creating Anzac Day and Dreamtime.
Now, I know in my life, having a disability, I always talk to leaders and try and get them to change perceptions about disability and innovate and do things differently. And I always find people that resist change. They try and stay to the status quo and things like that.
Of course I do.
What do you think, and what do you say to leaders who are people like that do resist change?
Well, I need to get a panel of people around them to convince them that they can change, and that some changes, not all changes are great, but most of our life we're in change. Most of our life. I mean, if you want to go back, let's put the mobile phone down, forget about the computer, take your seatbelt off, throw it out. Don't have .05. So don't have lines on the highway so you know where each other's going. Don't have right-hand turns and left-hand turns and roundabouts. Change the rules.
Mate, none of that. I'd have more doubles partners in tennis if they went back to that, mate. That's for sure.
So, when you look at all the changes we've had, I think that they're guiding us in a better direction, most of them.
Yep. Did you have times when you resisted change when later on you realised that you probably should have accepted it?
Probably not too much, really. I'm lucky like that a bit. There would be one or two, I mean, my wife would rather downsize right now and I don't, so I'm resisting that change.
That's because you like gardening.
I like gardening.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm all right with that.
I'm going to have flowers on wallpaper, I'll give me a break. So there's a little bit of resistance in that one at the moment, but I found out that music was a strength there to bring into sport, particularly with motivational type edited highlights and all that sort of, Rocky and those sorts of things. So I thought, well, yeah, we'll try that.
I love that.
Yeah, so we brought in a lot of superstar athletic Olympians into how you can put music to their performance. I mean, Debbie Flintoff, for example, she was sixth at the halfway mark of a gold medal, sixth, and she won it on the last step. Now that's a never, ever, ever give up spirit. And you put the music to that and you see her just get up on the line against a Russian. Now, look, I'm not a producer, but sometimes that's a change and people convince you to say, look, we'll try this music because your music's boring, whatever it is. I mean, so you got to listen. And often they're right, so we do a lot of different ways of coaching here at Essendon over the many years, with the different coaches we've had, because they have wonderful advice to give people.
Now we're here in the NEC hangar, here at the home of Essendon. In the 1970s when you were playing footy, talk me through the difference.
Well,
I mean, this is amazing.
Mod grass.
Yeah.
Look, I've been going overseas since I played at Richmond, obviously, and I was always going to coach from when I came out of the army. I was coaching in the army, won a couple of premierships at a young age, and then I went over on a couple of world trips, spent all my footy money and paid for my own personal development. So what I earned in a couple of those years, I just outlaid on seeing the world.
And those earnings were obviously different to footy players.
4,000, 5,000, yeah, that's it, yeah. And the Australian dollar wasn't that good for the
American
American dollar either. But I think it was about 62 cents or something like that, or 55 cents, anyway. So, but the worthwhile experiences was incredible. just to see how the Americans really lowered their defence forces. To realise that the Statue of Liberty is actually brass. It's not, stone.
Yeah.
And the French put it together and then brought it over and bolted it together. I just couldn't believe it. And then in that trip, I met some astronauts in NASA and down in Texas there, and I never thought I'd ever meet an astronaut in my life, and I'm 26 years of age. So when you meet these people who've been up and back to the moon twice in the 70s, you think, well, Kevin, you've got a lot to do. You've got a lot to do, and you better start doing it now because you're in your mid-20s. So these sorts of experiences kept me to have a wide open range of thinking to try and give value added, I said to the club when I come here, I said, I want to be a full-time coach because you only actually employ part-time people and you're getting part-time results. But if you make me a full-time coach, then I might catch Parkin and Hafey and Jeans and Kennedy and Barassi and all the other great coaches. Because I haven't coached a game yet, by the way. So how do you catch them? So you had to add value to the thinking of the decision they were going to make on me or other people. None of the other coaches want to be full-time. I said, well, that's their fault. And I think I can catch them.
That's what I love, even just talking to you now, your thirst to innovate and to learn, to get that knowledge. Did you always have this? I mean, pack up and go away at 26 back in that day was a huge thing.
Yeah, look, a lot of it started in the army when I had time because they pulled it back out of Vietnam and I had to go, so I went and did Asian history and economics at night school. And I got a team to coach, and it's very hard to go coaching men that are just coming back from war.
In the army,
and I'm 20, 21, and they're saying, well, you're the coach, and what do I talk about? Courage?
Yeah.
Or fear? Teamwork? When they've been, trying to stay alive while they're, over in Vietnam. So it was a very, very, they're all, seniority people, captains, majors. I'm the last little one on the rank called the sapper. So look, all of these little things that happen in your life are very challenging, but really learning, and I'll still be like that until I'm not here, obviously. I'll keep pushing the boundaries, finding out what we could be. I mean, this year I was in America trying to work out how we play for 4 points, Essendon versus the Giants on Australia Day.
In America?
In America this year.
Ooh, can I come?
Well, last year, this year,
Yeah.
I did this year.
Yeah, beautiful.
Before we were shut down with COVID. So
we'll go back.
I'm pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that love our game in America. There's 50,000 Australians in California, and there's a lot of Indians. So I think that if we can get some cricket ground, AFL-sized grounds up there in the next decade, I reckon there's a chance we'll play a game.
No, that's awesome, and obviously NEC's the sponsor here. They're leaders around the world in technology.
Yeah.
The reason people from overseas can now watch footy is because of technology.
Yeah, of course.
How much has it changed the game from when you first started getting involved?
Well, the first thing is that, technology and television, they're your assistant coaches. You want to look up your computer or your laptop or watch a television, and organisations like NEC, they actually provide you with an assistant coach. You can't be everywhere, but you can press a button and you're watching. And I like that. So if I want to revert back to games anywhere at any time, which you can now with obviously Google.
Like that,
yeah,
exactly.
bang, like that. And
watched you dominate back in 1976.
Yeah, in 76, well, 76, yeah. Well, that's last century. But look, the essence is in the detail. And I think the coaches got everything at their fingertips now.
What about the combination of the human aspect and technology as well? Because obviously everything was based around people, but now the tech is coming to get introduced more and more and more. How can these things coexist, do you think, to make an incredible organisation?
Well, first of all, it's a learning tool, so that the actual end, I hate the word product, but the end result will be an exciting sport or an exciting whatever the field you're in. That's to me. So a lot of people would just love to have the theatre in their home now, the theatre in your home. And of course, what you can do to produce that is incredible, because if you had said that was going to be done 20 years ago, you'd say, no way, Jose.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and that what, your own theatre in your home with your own, sit back and you think you're at a special, cinema. So we don't know where we're going to end up with futuristic planning and thinking, but it's exciting from where we've been to where we are now.
Do you think there's a limit in the way that technology can take an organisation somewhere? How important is it keeping that professional and human mindset aspect within an organisation as well?
Well, look, to me, that's why I stay close to the earth, the garden. So I can go to the garden and I can go back into modernisation, consistent modernisation forever.
Yep.
Because there are so many incredible companies around the world and countries looking at different futuristic, probably areas of our continent and our planet. And when you see some of the shows, they're incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible shots from here. I mean, who would have been thinking that you're going to have your own little minor plane going around suburbs?
A drone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call them little planes.
Little
baby
planes. I like that.
But drones. And I think to myself, and they just fly anywhere and take your camera up there to do an ad or flight down through. I mean, it's just incredible.
Oh, and even as someone with a disability, technology's changed my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm so glad I'm born when I'm born now. Exactly
we're living
right.
probably one of the best times on planet Earth, in Australia. In Australia.
Yep.
Some countries are really suffering, obviously. But right now, I would say my 70 years, I'd have to say from the 70s to now, say 50 years. The last 50 years, right, have been incredible 50 years in Australia's history.
Really
I've
has.
got no doubt about that.
Yep. Now, as we mentioned at the opener, 2020's been tough. I know you've faced setbacks in your life as well. Do you mind sharing with us now one of those setbacks and I guess the way that you're able to overcome?
Well, probably my first year, I had a busted my knee, and when I left the VFA to go to the VFL, I got disqualified for 5 years because went without a clearance because they were going to hold me back. So I said, well, I'll go anyway. And they said, well, if you go, we'll disqualify you for 5 years. So I said, well, I'll take the 5-year penalty. Yeah, back yourself. And the first year I done my knee, and so I missed the premiership, 67. So that was probably, I'd say, the biggest setback I've ever had, because most players in the 60s didn't get back. Most didn't. There's a fantastic player at Melbourne called John Townsend. He won a best and fairest. He did his knee, come back and won another best and fairest in the Rhomba Racing Norm Smith era. That is the fantastic result I've ever seen in the early days in the 60s of a young man, John Townsend, having the raw courage to work out like he was a frontier man for people with knees. Okay. So he inspired me. I've never told him that, by the way.
Well, he's a big fan of the show, so.
John Townsend.
Oh,
yeah. So I think in the end, all of these people and the medical area.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, we can't forget the actual medical area in developing sports and sports science has been incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Now, what about when times are tough for you? And I know you've been in the public eye for a long time, something that I sometimes struggle with as well, and leaders would, especially in changing times. How do you put aside the outside noise and just focus on and back yourself in?
Well, I do a lot of thinking before I really go out on the island and have a crack at something. Yeah, so they're going to have to really win a great debate to beat what I'm thinking, because I've actually worked through it a hell of a lot before I put it on the table to say, I think you're wrong here, and I think you've got to do better here. And I mean, the classic case was, not playing enough Indigenous players in Victoria. It was just pathetic. So when we recruited Michael Long, we were going to make a statement, and the statement was we went and got 20 Aboriginal boys to come listen in my time. And most clubs had none, ever. As a matter of fact, in 140 years, there was only 28 Aboriginals who played in Victoria in 140 years. And 14 of them were from interstate.
Wow.
So we had to, that's why I say it's a people's club, Essendon. It's, it's a club for all people from all over the world. And I specifically made that approach when I started bringing people in to work at the club. in and around myself, volunteers, the whole lot. So our physio was a Chinese person, and we had Eugene, he was a Korean. We had about 6 Italians, 3 Greeks, we just Maltese. We had everybody from Russian, German, a whole lot. Worked with us at Essendon in that 27-year period, and now basically our country is like a multicultural society. So I had no problem with that and loved it, because many, many wonderful people have come here to build our country, and one of the next iconic games is I'm looking at it rewarding them.
Beautiful. And I love hearing that, because I'm passionate about diversity and inclusion. And I want to get your opinion. It adds value, doesn't it?
Oh, mate. Well, you wouldn't have had Jesselenko play for Carlton if Mum and Dad hadn't have come.
Exactly.
Ukrainian. I mean, in my latest book, I'll be honest, is about for kids to understand that anybody from anywhere can make it in life. It's a little book for 10-year-olds. It's just come out, and I'm so happy with it, because 5 of the guys could be jockeys in the Melbourne Cup. If you said Eddie Betts, Caleb Daniel, Tip and Woody. I mean, you can put them in the Melbourne Cup and they can ride, I mean, they're that small. So you can either be tall, a bit chubby, lean and skinny, pick up the game like Mike Pike did, who played the premiership for the Swans. He's a rugby player from Canada, and they sent a tape over to Paul Roos. And this is one of the great stories in the book. Paul Roos said, I think we'll have a look at this guy. And here he is, 4 years later, 16 disposals and 39 hit-outs.
Mate, he killed it.
In a grand final from Canada. And he was introduced by a guy called Michael Byrne, who was a ruckman for Hawthorn, playing the premiership in '83. So, and he's a New South Wales guy. So a guy from New South Wales inspired a Canadian to come over and play in a premiership for the Swans.
Play a game he's never seen before.
Yeah, and Akek, who was a fantastic young Sudanese girl playing at Richmond AFLW, 8 years in a refugee camp, had no idea what sport was until she came to Australia at 12. No idea. Never seen sport before.
How good's that?
That's why I do these stories, because I want our kids in Australia to read about these other people that never get a chance, don't have a chance, may be lucky to come to Australia and help build our country.
And also, it's for those people to read about themselves as well.
Well, I hope she does.
Yeah, because I know...
I'll be sending her a book.
Yeah, but 100%.
She doesn't even know I've written about her.
But in the sense that one thing I struggled with, which I'm sure young Indigenous footy players back in the day, I never saw anybody like me, so I didn't know if I could do it. You know what I mean? And I think there needs to be role models. And when you decided you were going to stick up and include, and I guess take a risk and include other people with different backgrounds and cultures within the club.
A lot of it's common sense, but
yeah, exactly.
How do you want to treat human people?
Yeah, but did you get pushback from people? Because for everyone,
I must admit. I mean, I was taught this by the nuns when I went to school. Presentation convent nuns. I went to a little school down in South Yarra there for my first sort of 5, 6, 8 years or whatever, and they were always on about looking after people who don't have much, looking after people that aren't well, looking after people. That's all the nuns ever taught you. Don't worry about education. Just look after people and care. Well, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Not a bad. You work out the education bit. Yeah. I mean, your best education's after school anyway, isn't it?
100%.
Yes.
I like that a lot. Now, before we wrap up, I've got to ask you, obviously, people that
are we wrapping up, are we? Did that go on quick?
Mate, that's how good we're going. Here we are. Look at that, we're on fire. Now, the people that are watching this want to, create value for their organisations or their teams or whatever that is. What is your advice to leaders who want to make that change? What's the one piece of advice you can leave with them?
Look, I would say keep developing yourself. If you think you're very good at 35 or 40 or 45, I'm so rapt that the 2 presidents of America have been in their 70s. I'm feeling good at 72.
Wait, are you trying to say you're about to run for Prime Minister?
Well, look, no, President. I'm going to
be on America.
create a new president. We create a new position in Australia called President.
Nice.
El Presidente. There's a Prime Minister. He can have Parliament. Let's go and run the country and have fun.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, keep developing yourself and find out how you can develop and encourage your people around yourself to invest in their development self. Don't always leave it up to the company to pay, right? And I would say that that's the best thing I've did. I will always believe that every year I go away somewhere, either in Australia or anywhere in the world, I buy and did buy lots of videos. Obviously, they're out of the road down on the Ten Commandments table, sort of. But I've spent that much on books about newisms and people that are creative, and so I always write in my autographs, please keep developing yourself, or make sure you find out who you are. Sometimes we don't know that, and I can tell you now, I'm a very different person to what I was at 50, 22 years ago. And when I was 32 and I got the job at Essendon, totally different. By the time I was 40, I thought I knew lots of everything. And by the time I was 50, I found out I knew very little. So it's a sort of every 1, 3, 5 years, just check in and see. And that'll inspire yourself and your people around you, because if you're at the top of the organisation, whether it's NEC or Coles or, whatever, Under Armour, any of the things I'm hanging on me at the moment, the deal in the end is you want to be pretty good to stay where you are, because there's always somebody coming at you, and let them know that you're pretty good too.
Kevin Sheedy, you're an inspiration, brother. I love talking to you. I feel like I want to run through a big roll.
Don't be like that.
Mate, good on you,
Don't
mate.
get hurt.
Sheedy, thank you so much for coming on, mate, and look forward to seeing what's going to happen in the future. And keep gardening. You're looking fit, I got to say.
I'm feeling pretty good.
You're looking good.
I'm going that well, the flowers are starting to talk to me.
Good on you, brother. Thank you.